So thanks everybody for coming out and taking a look at what's new in Clarity 2023. In terms of an agenda, we'll go through the usual fundamental pieces of version support and then talk about some of the enhancements that we've brought in the 2023 release, including these different themes and areas that you see on the screen here. We'll be mostly in PowerPoint. I'm happy to jump in at the end, especially part of the Q&A, and show you anything live that you'd like to see live on the screen. So please put that in your question. But let's get going. So historically, Clarity has been doing a 2 release per year kind of system where the spring release matches up with the Autodesk release of new versions of Revit and Revit Server. And then the fall release is just a pure enhancement kind of update. And we continue that trend into this year. So 2023 of Clarity supports 5 versions directly in Revit and Revit Server. And so that goes back to 2019. I'm always curious, I keep meaning to do a poll on this, is with how many people still have 2018 projects that are actually active as opposed to just in a holding pattern. But we do still have limited support for Revit 2018 by running an old version of the task server. So as we've done before, we've effectively got full support with the new version for 5 and then limited support for a 6th version. So we hope that that covers enough to keep things productive for you. Let's see, where do we go? Okay, so the first category we'll talk about is task reliability and monitoring enhancements. In the last year, I would say, and particularly last year, there's been a big push from all of the customers saying that the reliability was not there. And it's mostly driven by Bim360 and some of the nuances of Bim360 and desktop connector and tokens and all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, really the buck has to stop here. Clarity is the product that's supposed to be doing the work, and you have to be able to trust that when you schedule that the work is going to get done, that you've got a something approaching 100% chance when you come in the morning that the work has been done. So we've heard that feedback. We've worked hard with Autodesk and finally made some headway, I would say, in the February timeframe of this year. But we've also gone back and relooked at everything that we could do in the product to make the product more reliable, more trustworthy. The thing that I've heard that is my least favorite word around Clarity is babysitting, and we want to get you out of that business. So anything that you come up with that you see that would make things better around that, please let us know. But we've pushed in a lot of different areas in this release to try to make things more reliable, more trustworthy, more solid, as well as more transparent or easy to figure out what's going on. So the first thing that I'll show you is a new view that we have in the system, what we call the task coordinator view. Last year, we provided you with the task dashboard, which gave you that sort of pivot table summary of what kinds of tasks have been done and are they working or not working. We wanted to give another variation of that focused on 2 different aspects. And in particular, for some of the customers that have multiple offices and maybe task servers that are in different offices and different people that are responsible for different offices, both the projects and maybe even if there are local task servers, a better way to get a view of what's going on in the offices that you're responsible for. So the task coordinator view is a new view in the global tasks section, and we have a new concept within the office setup framework of who are the responsible users for that office. And so if you're a responsible user for a given office, you will see in this view both the current, sorry, I keep advancing without meaning to, you'll see a few different things in this. You'll see both the last 24 hours for the projects that are in your office. When do they launch? How many of them? And what's their current state right now? So you can get a sense of, are things working? Are they not working? And dig in and see why. You would also see how many task servers are up and available, and we have a new alerting sort of framework, whereas we used to send emails out and that kind of thing, that really was sort of good in the moment, but we wanted to add a better mechanism for alerting so that you can see for your task servers, what are any issues that are out there on your task servers, and when those issues get resolved, the alerts disappear. So you now get a view of your office's tasks, what's been happening in the past 24 hours, and any of the task servers and any alerts that are going on right now with the task servers. So I'd also like to talk about some other reliability-oriented enhancements that we've done. We have made some enhancements in our dialog pop-up sort of killing code, which is another thing that can get in the way of getting tasks done in the middle of the night, is the pop-ups. So that's been enhanced. We've improved our Revit monitoring code. So we have things that watch Revit and try to assess whether Revit is hung up or frozen. And if it is, our feeling is that it's better to kill Revit when we realize that sort of automatically and let the next task move on, rather than be hung up and not get anything else done on that task server because one Revit was hung up. Let's see, we've also had some enhancements to the Revit and Bim360 handling code. We found different cases where how we open models or how we deal with the pop-ups that come from Bim360 was having an effect, and we've cleaned that kind of stuff up. And those two that have the star next to them, those actually are important enough that we've rolled back those enhancements into recent updates of 2022.1. So I definitely recommend keeping your task servers up to date for that for that basis alone. We also went through, and in terms of the support cases that we'd had, one of the other big areas of support was some nuanced kind of issues that had to do with post-task actions, so the delivery step involved. And one thing that was relatively hard for people to understand was that historically, most of the post-task actions actually happened on the host server and not on the task server where the task happened. And as a result, there were some oddities where the files might exist or be available on the task server, might not be available on the host server, and that would cause problems, and it wouldn't be clear as to why. So we've changed things up going forward so that post-task actions can now all be run on the task servers. That's something that people are opted into by default, and you actually have to opt out of if you don't want that behavior. We also dealt with a lot of support cases where the sending in things like task diagnostics, or telling a task that we want to kill that task. There was a lot of sort of one-way communication where a message would get thrown over the wall to a task server to do something, but there was no feedback to the user that that message was received. And for one reason or another, there were situations where that message would not be received and it couldn't be done. And so we've gotten rid of that. There's more two-way communication between the hosts talking to the task servers. And so while there's still potential for issues to happen, it won't be a matter of that you don't know that there's an issue. It's it's something where when you ask it to do something, it will wait for confirmation to tell you that it's been done. And then we mentioned persistent alerts in the previous discussion. That's something that is actually a fairly broad topic. That's one example that we're showing up there, but we support a variety of different kinds of alerts now that are more persistent and less just fire off an email when this situation exists and then forget about it. So let's see. We also want to talk about usability. That was another big area of feedback from people, is they'd like to see things that were friendlier or less work involved or less explanation involved to people who are trying to use Clarity, especially getting new people on board or new BIM coordinators on board. So there's a few different areas of things that we'll talk about. This first one for browse locations is, I feel like, an area that's not sort of well understood, and we don't talk enough about it. And in general, it's an issue more broadly with a balance between security and configurability and sort of ease of use. We historically, because in a lot of firms, the Clarity service account has very high permissions. We've been reluctant to let people who configure tasks, we've been reluctant to let them browse and have a browse button inside of their task configuration. So in a lot of cases, that meant go over Open File Explorer, go browse to what you need, and, copy that folder and then paste it into Clarity, and that's annoying. And so what we've done is that for companies that really don't have a problem with that kind of situation, we've added this new option for allow browsing in the task configuration. And that just all the folder sort of task configuration options, if you have that checked, then your company trusts you to browse to whatever folders you need to browse as the Clarity service account. And so we've made that convenience available to users. But while I'm on here, I do want to point to this next one up, just because one of our application engineers told me that they didn't know anything about it. And that is, if you do have people browsing, one of the options is instead of having people needing to know things like a UNC path and where is the project folder, what's the actual UNC path of the project folder, this allows selection from a predefined list, which you put in a similar place. That lets you add in the typical places that you want people to browse to. So if you want people to browse to your P drive, you can create a location called the P drive and just tell it once what the equivalent UNC path is, and that's more easy to understand for occasional users. So yeah, so that's one area. Another area, which is a feature that we've had for a number of years, but we felt like it was buried, and we felt like more people might try to take advantage of it if it was a little bit better surfaced, is metadata mapping. So the idea behind metadata mapping is if you want to deliver a file to a common data environment like your Bim360 or ProjectWise or SharePoint, and you'd like not just to deliver the file there, but you'd also like to send metadata in with that file, we can do that. And we have a variety of tasks and a variety of mechanisms that will do that for you. When it makes, for example, Revit to DWG, there's an option that says include the metadata for it. And that will take Revit metadata in that particular case and say, here's your DWG file, and here's the metadata that goes with it. And here's your second DWG file, and here's the metadata that goes with it. And then we're going to deliver that metadata to Bim360 or ProjectWise or SharePoint. However, it's not surprising that most of those systems might not know what that metadata means because you might use different attribute names in Revit than what you use inside of Bim360 or ProjectWise or SharePoint. So this metadata mapping concept is a configuration file that you can say take my Revit data for approved by on the sheet parameter, and I want to map that into the approver inside of Bim360 or that kind of thing. So all of the Revit metadata is mappable. All of the Bim360 custom attributes are mappable. All of the project-wise attributes are mappable. There's all sorts of sources of data and then targets of data that we can help make happen. And historically, this has been in the product, but it was varied. You had to get onto the server and edit the configuration file over on the server. So at least to test out our theory that people are interested in doing this more, we've moved the configuration file of the mapping into the server page. So it's still maybe not as friendly as it could be, and we'll be able to tell how much people are using it and see if people are using it more. And if they are, we can make it more friendly. But this lets you edit the configuration file on the server page, set up whatever the mapping is, whether it's for all projects or whether it's for a specific project. And then also it gives you samples of what does the data look like that we expect to see out of Revit or out of ProjectWise or out of Bim360. And you can even do a test to say, take this sample data and put it through my configuration for how to map things and what does the output look like. So yeah, that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is take something that was there and make it a little bit more approachable by putting it in the user interface. Data sheet editing. So you may know that we do have room and equipment data sheet kind of capabilities, and a percentage of people use that, and a percentage of people actually, when they look at the data sheet, they want to be able to make changes to the data sheets. And this may be data that lives inside of Revit and needs to flow back into Revit. And the existing state of things is, even if you built this nice looking furniture data sheet, it looks like this, which is something that we can do. If you clicked the edit data button, it would have sent you over to a form that looked like this, which was not quite as nice to be able to update. And what people were telling us they really wanted is they just wanted to take what they were looking at on the screen and say, let me edit this thing that I'm looking at right here, without switching over to another page and another sort of form where I have to refind what it is that I'm looking for. And so the new mechanism is we have what's called in-place data sheet editing, where we just take your template as you've already defined it, and we can just pop it in, and and you can edit exactly what you're seeing on the screen. So we hope that encourages more people to try out data sheet editing, and and make it easier for people to do that kind of work. All right, moving forward. Auto-creative Bim360 projects. The concept came up from a variety of people last year, and we finally got a chance to do it, which is, if I want all my projects in Clarity, why doesn't it just create? Every time I create a new Bim360 project, it just creates it automatically in Clarity. And we thought that wasn't a bad idea. We did make it so that it is only for your own hub or account in Bim360. And it turns out we do have to wait until you have a Revit file actually in the Bim360 project, because that's how we can figure out what the proper Revit version is for that Clarity project. So once if you turn on this option, when a Bim360 project gets added, we will see it. We'll see the Revit file in it, and we will auto-create the Clarity project, and you can point to a template project to copy over stuff from that template project. So hopefully makes it easier to get each new project set up. We also have some updates to our task configuration UI. This is something where we just kind of spend a little bit of time on a few different tasks in every release. For this release, it's the DWG and Navisworks tasks have gotten an update so that they're sort of like the PDF task. I think we've got Bim360 Migrate has a better sort of user interface, not just the sort of standard keyword and value two-column kind of thing, but just something that matches a little bit more what you would expect based on the Revit export screen. So that's what we've done there for those two task types. We've also, let's see, done a few different enhancements on, it says integrations, but it's really mostly task integrations. Oh, and actually I see something that we're missing here. So first, our PyRevit integration is now deeper. We've got an option for it to run more like our Dynamo task, where if you drop your PyRevit script into a script folder, then it will promote it to be a full task, including configurable user interface from the PyRevit script. So, yeah, that's making the PyRevit integration better. New tasks, we actually have a few of them. We have one task that does, the basics of model maintenance. Open with audit, optionally purge, and sync to central with compact. So that's one. In 2023 and higher, we now have STL and OBJ export as available tasks. And the one that's missing from here is actually SAT export that we got asked about recently, and we managed to sneak that in. Let's see, on the project-wise integration side of things, we've got sort of limited support now for Bentley IMS accounts. We're still working out how best to support that on the host server side, but on the task server side, if you use the Bentley IMS accounts, which is kind of like the Autodesk logins, it's the sort of single sign-on for Bentley. We have some limited support to be able to leverage that inside of Clarity task servers. We also have a couple new metrics involved where we are going to report on how much memory is consumed by opening a particular model, as well as the number of saves that you've had on that model. So that's all part of the new document versioning sort of mechanism that's in the new versions of Revit. Let's see. So our space programming module, which we've been talking about since it got released last fall. This is again something probably mostly targeted at architects who do space programming and would like to have a mechanism to pull their program into some kind of centralized environment and have a standardized workflow for doing Revit-based space programming. We've got some enhancements for that module, and this includes the ability to have data sheets that are not based on any kind of Revit data, but just on the program itself. So if you need early stage room or room type data sheets that are just based on programmatic data, we now have that as something that's available. We also were working with some firms that had a large number of custom parameters that they wanted to import and track along with their program, and going through that process of setting up the mappings to import that from a spreadsheet was painful. That's a little hint, is just make a developer do something once painfully by hand, and they will invest tons of energy to make it so you don't have to ever do that again. So our developers went back and made a sort of fuzzy matching scheme where you could click a button and it'll take a best guess at what the right mapping is between your Excel spreadsheet and your corresponding field within your program. Inside of Revit, there's a new tool for lining up families, and we also have new mechanism with the space programming FF&E side within Revit to make note of components or FF&E that are not going to be modeled, your signage or waste baskets or things like that that need to get into the program or into the data sheet potentially, but really don't need to be inside of Revit. So yeah, oh, and I guess I have deeper slides on this, but yeah, so ultimately program-based data sheets, guessing of mappings between two different systems, the space alignment tool, which I won't dwell on. It just lets you grab some spaces and say put them along a line and sort them by department or area or that kind of thing. And then being able to mark different components of FF&E as not a modeled component, just track it for a program perspective. We also have a lot of smaller enhancements as well that didn't really fit into the big themes of the presentation, but I did want to mention them in passing, just in case people have questions about them. So that includes better support for non-work shared cloud models, which is something that we didn't even really focus on the existence of until this past year. A task server maintenance window. So if you want to have, say, Sunday morning, an automated mechanism to run the update, that's now possible. You can make sure that that no tasks get claimed during your maintenance window. Some of the customers that are having Bim360 issues have seen improvements if you cleaned up the CEF cache, and we've had sort of an undocumented CEF cache cleaner that ran once a day. That was out there, but we now have a more visible option for aggressive cleaning of the CEF cache after every single task, and that actually seems like that does even better for people that have CEF cache issues. The number of bad logins, consecutive failed logins before your account gets suspended, is now configurable. People had asked about exporting the project list to Excel, which is there. I mentioned ProjectWise. People have encountered for a while the occasional path too long issues where we build up an artifact path and a project path and a long file name and then a long DWG file underneath that. We've got a mechanism to shorten the path significantly that's available now as well. A live check on your tokens just to see exactly what Forge can show you in terms of your tokens in Bim360 to sort of, especially if you've had your Clarity service account removed from a partner hub or something like that. That's worth seeing there. Schedule export task now supports metadata extraction. There's an email notification default for any newly created users. Do you want people receiving emails or not, or what kind? Space programming has tag on create. Datasheet edits are now optional, or for comments are now optional, that kind of thing. And there's probably a few more. That's just what I came up with at the end. So how do you get what's new? So existing permanent license holders should have yesterday received emails with their new authorization code and the download link that would have gone to just one of whoever the designated contact was at your firm. If you did not receive it and you're a permanent license holder, just reach out to support@rand.com. I know they did get some bounce backs where they were still waiting to hear back for who should be the designated contact. If you have an annual subscription to Clarity, the way it works is there should actually be an email going out yesterday or today, I think, that will tell you how to switch your subscription to 2023. You'll just get the software, but then you'll go to the support group and reset your authorization codes to get you 2023 authorization codes. And both sides should get an email also from me about the how to upgrade process with the walkthrough video for both task server install and host server install. Both of them are fairly straightforward to do. But if you would like some additional support during your upgrade process, even us sitting with you to make sure it all goes smoothly, just coordinate that through your IMAGINiT account representative, help you with that. So with that, I will switch it over to the Q&A section, and we will cover any questions that people have. And first one's an easy one. Yes, a recording will be provided for this presentation. And someone asked, is there a secret to get audio? I'm not sure if there's a secret, but I would hope that the recording would have audio, so you'll at least get it after the fact. Can you clarify when you're discussing on-prem versus cloud clarity? Yes, everything that I have said today is reflective of on-prem clarity 2023. The cloud clarity is still a product. It's still, it's taking off very slowly. But yeah, everything that we're talking about is the on-prem clarity 2023 product. And we're going to be doing some updates to Clarity Cloud in the coming weeks to get some of the 2023 features over there, as well as some additional things that we're building out just to try to get closer to parity. There's a lot of features that are in the on-prem that are not in the Clarity on the cloud yet. And so we are still working on getting that to be closer to even over time. So limited. Someone asked about what does limited support for Revit 2018 mean? What that means is that you would be using a Clarity 2022.1 task server with Revit 2018 because that's it supports Revit 2018, and the only thing that it means is that any enhancements that are in the new version of Clarity 2023, so anything that we put in that's new, it won't be going into that version. So you'd just be running the older version, and it is what it is. It doesn't get necessarily all the new enhancements. So I hope that covers it. Someone said they love it, but I'm not sure what they're talking about. Is the auto create done on a schedule? Yes, and actually there's a follow-up question. Does Clarity schedule a scan of Bim360 projects? So the answer to both is yes, and actually it is the same scan. And gosh, if I had one of our devs on the phone, I could probably find out what it is. My suspicion is it's about once an hour that we scan for new projects. So it's just on a clock. We go out and look and see if there's any new projects, and that same scan is when the auto create gets done. If you do have auto create turned on, that's when it would take a look at it and attempt to create the project. Again, only if the project not just exists, but there's a Bim360 somewhere. I'm sorry, there's a Revit file somewhere in the project where we can pull the version number off of that Revit file. So let's see. I imagine the webinar will be posted, but will the slide deck also be available somewhere? I can try to coordinate that with marketing and make that happen. Next question, can the audit and compact tasks be added to a task sequence that has the database exports, performance advisor, model metrics, and publish latest? Yes, it's just like all the other tasks. So yes, you're welcome to include that into a task sequence that does all of those things. Next question, is there a plan to have Datasmith, the Unreal Engine export clarity task in the future? I don't know that we have that on our radar. But I will tell you that I did help somebody, I guess for Datasmith, they have a Dynamo node, and I did have help somebody get their Dynamo node that had the Datasmith Export. They put that into Clarity and basically had Clarity run a Dynamo task that did the Datasmith Export. That's something that we'd be open to doing in the future. This would only be the second time we've heard the request, but if there's more people like that that are interested, then let us know and we can pursue Datasmith and see if there's a better integration than we can do, better than the Dynamo node approach. The best place for that kind of discussion is, I don't have it on here, but the community site. If you click on the feedback link inside of Clarity, it's imaginit.helprace.com, where our community site is. You can propose that as a feature, and see if other people vote for it as well. We do review that when we plan each new release. Question about how do you become a permanent license holder? So that all goes back to when you purchase Clarity. There are two ways to purchase Clarity still, with one of which is a permanent license, where you pay for a permanent license, and then you pay a small amount of maintenance to get each new year's release and support for that release. But you can run that version of Clarity forever. So the license never expires. You just get a new one each time that Clarity, a new version of Clarity comes out. But each license that you get runs forever. That's alternative to the annual license, which is sort of like Autodesk's annual license, where you can buy it, but it'll stop working in a year. So if you are interested in switching from the annual version to the perpetual version, that is something that I think sales, or your account representative can probably make happen for you. It might need to happen during your renewal process. The permanent licenses are a little bit more expensive upfront, but less expensive over time. Let's see. Question about who should you talk about who the license email is sent to. Send that to support@ran.com. They can go in and change the email. It's the email that your license is attached to. They can go in and make change for that. Next question. Are there any plans to add Bim360 projects from Clarity such that it builds the project and adds the members based on a special set of rules or templates? We do have a sort of project that's in the works. We're not sure if it'll be part of Clarity or separate, but we are experimenting with that. It's sort of, if you're familiar with our Clarity Active Directory sync, it would basically be Bim360 Active Directory sync, so that it would so it wouldn't really build the project from Clarity so much as just let you create projects or populate and synchronize users into projects. So if you're interested, reach out to me afterwards. We're kind of looking for people to drive what we should include in that. And I'll also say that there is today up on GitHub, there is a Autodesk provided tool that does build a project for you from a spreadsheet or something like that. But we are looking at making something a little bit friendlier than the CSV file mechanism that they have. Next question, for the automated Clarity project setup for a Bim360 project, where is the checkbox to turn on or off this feature? We have some projects that will want this and others that don't. Is it a setting in Bim360? So right now, this is something you have to opt into. It is in your Clarity server settings. I can bring things over and go live here for a moment. So down in your server settings, in the Bim360 section, yeah, so auto create newly found projects, true or false, what your default hub is. So we're only going to create it for your default hub. And right now, I guess we don't know how to differentiate the ones that you want versus that you don't want. So right now, if you turn this on, it will create any new projects that are seen inside your Bim360 hub. Any updates to the Revit add-in? Can you make this easier to find on your website? Yeah, that's something we've been meaning to add for a while to the Clarity system, system settings page or one of these server pages to be able to download the Clarity client directly from there. There are updates, but I don't think they're meaningful really unless you're using Clarity space programming. I think they're just mostly compatibility updates. And I think actually the old versions would continue to work except for if you want Revit 2023 support. So not meaningful upgrades outside of the upgrades related to space programming. But we will take your point on getting the Clarity client download more surfaced and available here. Let's see, what if we don't host the project on our hub? Aside from a login and permissions, is there a requirement for hosting the hub's company that they must let our Clarity work with our model in their hub? So yes, there are restrictions. A Bim360 hub or account owner in Bim360 has the ultimate right to choose what applications are allowed to interact with projects in their hub. So if you have Clarity, that's great. But if it's your partner that hosts the particular project, you actually have to get your partner to allow Clarity in the door. Even though we're operating as a user, there's still something in place where the Bim360 account administrator has to go in at the partner firm and say it's okay for Clarity to interact with us. This is something that it causes some firms concern and heartburn. We talk to people probably once a week who get referred over to us to say, tell us what this means. Does it cost any money? Is there a security implication here? And we reassure people that it does not cost any money, and there is no real concern from security perspective because we only let you operate as a user. So they're not giving you any permissions that you couldn't have done by hand. Let's see. So I think that question was more about Bim360 and Clarity in general. If it was about the auto create feature, like I said, there is this setting for what is your hub, and and we only will create them for your hub. But if for some reason you're in a situation where where you work primarily with other people, right now you can really just pick one hub, and we're only going to create projects from that one hub today. I would be curious to hear if people are interested in us doing more and creating all of the projects that you can see. And let's see if I can show you over on the OAuth settings. We have this new check option where we can go in and look at, okay, for this particular user, what hubs can they see, and under what hub, what projects can they see? And so this is something that you can use to determine also, has my partner added Clarity to their hub, because you will not be able to see their hub here until your partner turns it on. All right. Next question is there a way to use brackets as special characters in the PDF file name? Our PDF names include the current revision enclosed by brackets. Oh, fun. However, since the parameters are also enclosed by brackets, there's an error in the name. Yikes. All right, well, I'm going to take that one as to go offline and see how we can make that happen for you. My hope would be that if it's just the current revision, then there wouldn't be like a parameter in between there. So if we could just make it so that it wasn't an error, then just ignore anything that's not a parameter and stuff, then maybe we can make that work for you. I'll take that as a note, and we can get that into an update. Have there been any improvements to scheduled task sequences? I'm not sure, Jeremy, what you're looking for in particular. I think nothing's really changed in them. I don't know if I've had any requests for them. I know that we are looking in one of the next versions to come up with something that might be triggered by not just a schedule, but a metadata change. But in terms of scheduling, I think it's really still just these options for schedule and the only on change and days and that sort of thing. So I think we did recently fix an issue with 2-week and 3-week stuff not working in all situations. So maybe that's what you're referring to. But that was a 2022.1 fix, as well as fixed in 2023. Can we select a specific, next question, can we select a specific Bim360 folder for Clarity to look for a Revit model for auto-creating a project from in Bim360? I don't think you need to. I guess I don't know if you would have different kinds of Revit models or different versions. I think right now what happens is we just do a search from the top level, and whatever Revit version, whatever the first Revit model is that we find somewhere in there, that's what we use to determine the version from. So I guess if you feel like that is not a good enough approach, I guess reach out and tell us why, because maybe you've got something, maybe you're ahead of us in what might go wrong with that theory. Next question, will the new version be able to report the file size of single Revit models from Bim360 versus the aggregate of the file and all linked? Yes, somebody's gonna probably catch me in something where it's not actually working in all scenarios, but I believe that it should be doing that correctly today in 2022.1. If there's a scenario where it's not reporting that properly, then I guess please let me know. But I think we've done some work to try to get that right in 2022.1, where we have to get it from the cache folder. Basically, we don't have the ability to. There's the version that comes from Bim360.com, which I know we were using for a while, but I believe that we are now reporting based on the size of the file in the cache. Okay, so somebody +1ing right here in the Datasmith Export. So, all right, well, we will take a look at that. Let's see, what else do we have? Can you post the link to IMAGINiT community where the new feature requests are posted? I will point it out to you. So up here, upper right corner of your Clarity screen is a feedback link, and that takes you into here where we have updates, we have knowledge base, you can post questions, ideas, this kind of thing. This is our community site, and it is imaginit.helprace.com. So that's what we're talking about, but yeah, you can navigate directly from the feedback link in the upper right corner of your Clarity screen. Next question, Clarity will run a task on any Bim360 hub that the licensed user is added to. We do this on other accounts regularly. Okay, I think this is maybe not a question, but a comment. So yes, so long as the Bim360 account admin has given permission for Clarity to access that all projects in that hub, then everybody's available to every Clarity customer would be able to work with that hub's projects. Let's see, there's a follow-up question. How do you think the ACC environment will impact the functionality of Clarity as we move forward? So far, we have not seen a meaningful impact. There are some changes to the Forge APIs that are available in ACC, but it really hasn't affected us much so far. So we haven't seen it. It is something that we watch fairly closely because sometimes things that we depend on disappear or wind up not being supported. But the people who develop ACC have been pretty good about communicating that kind of stuff. So it seems okay so far. I'm hopeful. Do we need to create a new Clarity project when we upgrade our Bim360 project version? Okay, so you've created a Bim360 project, say in 2021, and now the project is moving to Revit 2022. Do I need to upgrade it or to recreate it? You do not. See if I can do this live, but we'll just go into the project in question and edit the project. Go to your project type, and you see it's still in there as 2022, but we can, oh, I'm sorry. It's actually this button up here. Okay, so current version 2021, new version, what you want to move to. And so that will change the Revit version that works with this project. So it's not this down here, it's this button up there. Could be a little bit clearer, agreed. All right, well, that is all of the questions that I see. The team that works on this is very appreciative of of you guys continuing to support us and believe in us. So yeah, we're going to continue to push things forward and do everything we can to help here. So please let us know what we can do for you. But our hope is that yeah, the 2023 version is going to be great for you.